You know, when we come back in a couple of minutes, we'll be talking about sex with aliens. Yes, when we come right back. Science, dreams, aliens, conspiracies, and spontaneous explorations of optimism, mysticism, fanaticism, and delirium. This is what we call Mental Radio. I'm Shadow Stephen.
I am Dr. Freeze.
But right now...
Yes, sir.
Throughout history and all across the world, people have reported sexual contact with all manner of supernatural beings. Many people believe sex demons were born out of a need to explain away subjects that were generally considered off limits. More often than not, things such as unexpected pregnancy, abortion, promiscuity were met with anger and persecution. So, as to not get busted, society came up with a number of mythical creatures. For your listening pleasure, we've listed some of these strangest demons as follows. Popobawa, meaning batwing in Swahili. It's said to be a large, bat-like creature with one eye and a very large penis. It's said to stalk the men and women of Zanzibar, Africa, and surrounding islands. It's a shapeshifter, often taking the form of a human or animal. It usually visits households at night and does not discriminate against men, women, or children, often sodomizing an entire household before moving on. Victims are warned by Popobawa to tell others about the attack or risk it returning. There have been sightings reported as recently as 2007.
In Chiloé, an island off the south of Chile, is said to be home to the Trauco, a sexually potent dwarf with the power to paralyze women with a look before having sex with them. The Trauco is described as being ugly and goblin-like, often wearing a hat and suit. His feet are stumps and he communicates through a series of grunts. Some reports suggest that Trauco doesn't even need to have intercourse with his victims, that he can in fact impregnate them with his gaze. Often when a single woman falls pregnant, people assume the Trauco is the father. In these cases, the women are considered blameless, as the Trauco is said to be irresistible to women, and he has a wife. El Trauco's wife, La Fiora, is said to be a grotesquely ugly dwarf.
They're always dwarfs. I'm sorry I interrupted. It just threw me off there, man.
That, that's kind of like having, like, right in the middle of sex with a dwarf, and somebody comes in and says, "Yeah, that always had to be a dwarf." It's like, no problem. I'll get it all.
I'm sorry I interrupted. It's
really not a problem. No, it's not the interruption. Actually, I want to thank you because I was really getting stimulated by La Fiora. Now it takes a little longer.
Okay, a grotesquely ugly dwarf.
Trauca La Fiora, mi amore. She's an ugly dwarf with the ability to cast a sickness spell against anyone who rejects her sexual advances.
Whoa.
Her breath is so foul, it can physically scar a human being and turn animals lame. Despite her appearance, she is generally irresistible to men, and after having intercourse with them, she drives them insane.
Well, probably the most well-known sex demon is succubus, a female demon who takes the form of an attractive seductress in order to seduce men. It is generally believed that the succubus legend came about as a result of the medieval preoccupation with sin, especially sexual sins of women. The male version of the succubus is the incubus. Like his female counterpart, the incubus will drain the strength and life energy of his victims. Unlike the succubus, the incubus will impregnate his victims with another incubus. The victim will then carry the baby to term, but when she gives birth, the baby appears to be a stillborn. It will have no pulse, and it appears not to breathe, and then it opens its eyes and will cry for hours. We here at Mental Radio think that baby incubus are just colicky when they are babies.
Originating from Teutonic or German folklore, an Alp is a small, elf-like creature. That is right, Alp, A-L-P. A small, elf-like creature who is said to have climbed onto a sleeping victim's chest, then turns itself into a fine mist and enters the body through the nostrils, the mouth, or vagina. Once inside, the Alp had the ability to control its victims' dreams, creating horrible nightmares. Its victims reported a breathless feeling when they awoke. This may have been an early explanation for sleep apnea or other sleep disorders.
And yes, aliens. There are countless cases of alien abductions, many with sexual undertones. Some reports suggest that the use of an invasive anal probe and other talk of a sexual union with the aliens themselves. Now, there's a 52-year-old jazz singer named Pamela Stonebrook who claims to have regular sex with a 6-foot-tall reptilian alien. My first sexual encounter with an alien was unlike any lovemaking I've ever experienced before, she said. It's so intense and enjoyable, and without wanting to get too graphic, he was so much larger than most men. I remember exactly how I felt when I saw him for the first time. I awoke from my sleep to find myself making love to what appeared to be a Greek god. At first, I assumed it was an exceptionally lucid dream. As I closed my eyes, I was overwhelmed by how comfortable I felt with this unknown being. The next time I opened my eyes, he had transformed into a reptilian entity with scaly, snake-like skin. It was then that I realized I was making love to a shape-shifting alien. Sensing I was scared, the reptilian whispered, "We've always been together. We love each other." The orgasms were intense. When I tell men about my reptilian experience, they find it difficult.
This is the Orange Minyak.
The Orange Minyak?
In the 1960s, a large number of young women were raped in several Malaysian towns. The attacker was described as a naked man, covered from head to toe with oil. Some said that Orange Minyak could appear invisible to non-virgins. Mass panic ensued, and many young women of the region began wearing sweaty, stinky clothes so the Orange Minyak would mistake them for men and leave them be. Some speculate that the Orange Minyak was in fact a regular human criminal who covered himself with oil to camouflage himself against the night and to make him especially slippery to catch.
Come to Mental Radio, come to Mental Radio.